Today I'm on my I'm in my house only, so I will do all the
So you
questions
don't
today.
have time today also?
No, I have time. I will do it
There were
today.
just 5 questions to do.
Yeah, I was
To
just
just
like,
uh, to just ensure that you understood what we had done yesterday. Okay, anyway, you can do it later also. Yes, Avani, were you able to do any questions?
Ma'am, no, I've just started, so
Okay. So I think since none of you have done them, you think we'll do them together? Hmm? I think we'll do that because after the classes, nobody bothers to open their books and see what has to be done. Mhm. Okay, anyway, no problem. So, I think we had done this question, right? Can you see question number 4? Yeah, we have done that. Okay, so now what you're going to do is, okay, this question number 5. You can do it from your book or you can do it just on the screen. So your sentence is missing, which is in the middle of the paragraph. Now both of you will read and get to the answer and then we will discuss. Fair enough? Shyam, do you have your study material?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can use that. Or you can do it on the screen because anyway your exam is not going to be pen paper, it's going to be online. So, and another thing, do you all have the PDF of the study material? No? Okay, I'll ask someone to share the PDF with you so you can get used to solving the questions from the screen itself. Yeah, because you won't have the advantage of pen paper marking on the paper and solving. So it is easier to get used to using the screen while you are solving. Okay, you can do this one.
ma'am, done.
Done. Shyam, done. Hmm? Okay. So Shyam, what's your answer?
Ma'am, B.
B. Avni?
B.
B. Okay, Shyam, you tell me what is your reason for choosing B?
Ma'am, because they have given the what we say, student live most in the Europe and North America.
Hmm.
And after that, after the dash, they have given that that is the size of two of your hands.
Yeah,
So if they have mentioned the size, so your B option will be going with it as
right.
it's saying that it's about size. So
Very
that's
good. Okay. Now this is question number 6. You can try reading it. This is a little longer than the earlier one. So, have you found your clues? Got your answer, Shyam? Not got your answer? Where are you stuck? What have you eliminated?
Ma'am, A has been eliminated by me.
Okay. You eliminated A. Then
I think so. B will be the answer. So I am keeping on the side.
according to you, B is the answer.
No, I think so. So I will be seeing more true answers.
You haven't gone through the others. Now, one thing more, you have to do it fast. Yeah. So you have to keep increasing your speed so that in the exam you are not in a state that you did only half the paper and the rest was left out. Right? Okay. So, Avni, what's your answer like?
D.
D?
D.
Okay. So why did you choose
Ma'am,
D?
B.
Okay, Shyam, oh, just a moment. Okay, Shyam, according to you, B is the answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you've read the others also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you plugged in B into the, have you put B into the gap and read the passage?
Yes, ma'am, because it is, I think
Hmm.
so from my side, so I'm getting that it is getting a similar thing with the paragraph.
Okay. So now we have B and we have D. So, okay, Avni, why did you choose D? Avni, we can't hear you. Yeah. Sorry, your voice is not clear. Just unmute yourself and try again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Because you circled they, so the scientist also added that the Plato made.
So they should refer to somebody who is also already mentioned in the previous paragraph. Sorry, previous sentence. So they also added that Plato made up the story using elements that may have been drawn from real events. And the earlier sentences were talking about what Plato had said. Yeah. Never been confirmed. First reference in Atlantis are from the classical Greek philosopher Plato, who said it was engulfed by the ocean, etc. Okay, now Shyam, if we look at B, it says Plato's accounts of Atlantis are in his works Timaeus and Critias, and these philosophical dialogues are the easiest known references to Atlantis. Yeah. Now, after that, if we say they also added, who are the they? Is it the works? Did the works say that Plato made up the story? Does it make sense? Doesn't make sense, right? So whenever I had told you, whenever you come across a pronoun, you have to be very clear about what that pronoun is referring to in the previous sentence. Yeah. So here your clue was they. So B will not be your answer. D will be the right answer. While there are many hypotheses about Atlantis, a vast majority of scientists conclude that Atlantis never existed. And then the next sentence talks about, they also added that Plato made up the story using elements that may have been drawn from real events. right? Now it makes sense? Yes, Shyam? So you must read carefully, look at the clues, and then get to the answer. Yeah? But remember, I told you earlier also that everything is about analysis. So, yeah. Now here we need the introductory sentence. So read carefully and figure out what can go in as the introductory sentence. So it begins like this next sentence begins with however. And it's talking about cause is an undersea earthquake. So what is the main idea we have here? Avni?
Just telling about the
Uh,
tsunami.
Cause of tsunami.
Cause of tsunami. Yes, Shyam?
Yeah, same ma'am.
Same thing. Okay. So it's the whole thing is about cause of tsunami. So what can we eliminate?
Ma'am, D.
Hmm?
D can be
You
eliminated.
can eliminate D. D or B?
No, sorry. B.
B. Okay. The term tsunami comes from the Japanese language. Okay. So is this relevant to the passage?
No.
Not relevant. Okay. What about
A
A?
can also be eliminated.
Why would you eliminate E?
Ma'am, because it is telling about the tidal waves, because they approach
Hmm.
only it is showing that they
So,
approach only land,
hmm,
and in this sentence we can't see that it's harming anyone.
hmm.
So it can be eliminated. So A
Tsunamis
can be
have been
eliminated.
historically referred to as tidal waves because they approach land. They take on characteristics of a violent onrush tide. So this doesn't give you the cause of tsunami.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this just tells you what tsunami is.
ma'am, C will be the answer
C will be the
because
answer.
because it is saying about the disturbance or the and
It
what we say.
causes extensive damage when it
Yeah.
encounters land. Um,
How, however, it most common called is an undersea earthquake. An
hmm.
earthquake which is too small to create a tsunami by itself may trigger an undersea landslide quite able to generate a tsunami.
Capable of generating a tsunami. Yeah, here we are talking about common cause is an undersea earthquake. Yeah. Okay, Avani,
Yeah,
what do
T
you
can
think?
be also.
Hmm? Now you have to come down to one answer.
Ma'am, D.
Ma'am, I will be going with C.
You will be going with C. Avani, you will be going with
D.
D. Okay. So let's see. Shyam says C and Avni says D. Now the sentences that are given to us, however, that means before this they would be talking about another cause of earthquake, of tsunami or undersea earthquake. Yeah. Another most common cause is an undersea earthquake. So earthquake which is too small to create a tsunami. So we are talking about creating a tsunami by itself may trigger an undersea landslide capable of generating tsunami. So we are all talking about generating what causes tsunami. So the sentence before this should be some other reason due to which tsunami can be generated. So Shyam, C says a tsunami can travel hundreds of miles over the open sea and cause extensive damage when it encounters land. Is it talking about what causes tsunami? Hmm? No, right? So can this be your opening sentence? So we can eliminate C. So we have D as the answer, which says a tsunami can be generated by any disturbance that rapidly move large mass of water, such as volcanic eruption. Yeah. So tsunami can be generated because of something. That will be your opening sentence. And then it goes on to, however, there are other causes. Got it? So Shyam, tell me where you're going wrong. You have to be able to analyze that what is it that
Yeah.
is getting you the wrong answer.
Ma'am, means I'm saying the questions and I just like this. I
Hmm.
couldn't guess
Hmm.
the main theme of the paragraph as it is saying about generating a tsunami.
Hmm.
I thought the main theme of the passage was to harm anybody, like tsunami harms 100 extensive damage. Yeah, it damaged the
Okay.
land or everything.
So
So
when you read, did you read the passage carefully?
yeah, but
But you didn't get to the
uh,
main idea of the
main
passage.
idea of the
Yeah.
passage
So
was
now when you read the next passage, what will you do?
finding the main idea of the
First,
passage.
find the main idea of the passage. Yeah. What is the passage talking about, and whether the option that you are choosing relates to that. If it relates to that, then does it give a flow? Is it logically connected? So these are the things you have to keep in mind. Okay. So let's see if you get the next one. So here's your next one. Now this is a big passage. Read it carefully. Now, when you have a big passage, what do? Break it down. Or I would say read it in bullet points. Yeah. Just look at the keywords of each of the sentences and then figure out how to deal with it. Let me know when you get to your answer. So what would you eliminate? Something that doesn't fit in. Has anyone got near to the answer? Are you finding it a little confusing? Okay. So first, let's analyze the passage. Yeah. So Shyam, could you figure out what it is about?
Ma'am, it is telling about the uh, when the what we say when the flood is
Hmm.
disaster or flood is coming in the country. So how the country saves, how it reacts during a
So
flood
the
time.
National Disaster Response Force rescued
Uh,
people. Yeah.
yeah.
So the situation of the flood, how a particular organization went into rescuing people. Then we have something missing here. And then it says capacity building to handle catastrophic weather events is poor. Yeah. Capacity building, that is the amount of capacity that or amount of force that we require to handle such situations is not adequate, if we paraphrase it. Yeah. And serious attention is not given to setting up of relief camps, creating crisis-proof health infrastructure, and stockpiling dry rations and medicines. So what does this mean? That preparations for all these is not enough, right? So if we break it down, initially it just talks about resistance of 5 states are currently struggling to cope with intense rain. And many of those lucky to have been rescued owe it to the National Disaster Response Force. But such response systems naturally have limited efficacy, that is, they have limited capacity or the ability to handle the situation, predominantly in rural states such as Bihar. Yeah, so this is the situation. So this is talks about the situation. And the second part talks about the poor condition of handling the situation. And these are the two things that we have. Now we need something that connects the two. So we first read the question, read the options and figure out what we can eliminate. A says, in Bihar's case, the shifting patterns and breaches of coast sea have added to the complexity of the problem, which requires a deeper understanding of the areas most at risk. He is talking about understanding of the areas at risk. Is it relevant? Does it connect the problem to the solution? Doesn't, right? So it is talking about understanding the areas at risk. Here we are talking about capacity building and the preparedness for handling making relief camps or creating all these facilities before the flood comes. Right? So if we are prepared, we will be better in a better situation to handle. So this is, we can say, not relevant. So we eliminate. If we look at B, what does it say? It says an integrated approach to managing floods requires a sound understanding of the patterns that rivers such as Ganga and its tributaries display during the monsoon. So this is also more or less similar to the previous one. So this is just understanding the patterns of the rivers. which is also not really relevant to what we require. What stands out in the annual cycle of floods is generally the tardy pace of preparation for rescue and relief. So tardy pace of preparation. What does tardy mean? Slow, slack, yeah, something of that sort. So tardy pace of preparation, is that a result of the poor situation? So if we were prepared, we would have set up relief camps, created crisis-proof health infrastructure, and stockpiled on rations and medicines. Yeah. So this could be an answer. We still look at the next one. India's vulnerability to severe flooding during the monsoon is spectacularly demonstrated year after year. Now, is this in the scope or relevant? So this is not in scope, right? So again, this we eliminate. So what are we left with? We are left with just C. Even if we eliminate what is not relevant, we come to C, right? And if we analyze, this makes sense, but it's talking about the limited efficacy in predominantly rural areas, then capacity building is poor. So why capacity? So this gives you the reason why capacity building is poor. Right? So it connects the first part to the second part. Now got it? Yes, Shyam?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still confused?
No, now it's clear.
So the main thing is we have to see what can be eliminated. Instead of choosing, now, first thing you do is break the passage down, see what the passage is talking about. Yeah. And if it is a middle sentence, what can connect the two ideas? Then what did you eliminate? Something that is not really talking about the problem and the solution, or the problem as such, the way it is. So your main thing is capacity building. So capacity building doesn't come in A, B, or even D. Yeah. So what action? So we are talking about the action and why it is not there. So C is the only option that gives you that. Okay. Now let's look at this one. This is a rather short passage, just 2 sentences, should be easy. Hmm. Can you get to your answer?
Ma'am, B or C.
B or C. Okay. Shyam?
Ma'am, B.
B. Okay, according to you, it is B. So Shyam, can you explain why you chose B? If you choose
Ma'am,
an
I think so.
answer,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's similar to the paragraph when we put it to
What
the
what do you mean by similar to the paragraph?
like when we join the sentences,
Hmm.
it's it means it's going with the paragraph. That sentence is going with the paragraph.
So is it talking about the same point
Yeah, ma'am.
or is it talking about a new point?
It is talking about the same point as the paragraph is saying.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Avni, so you are confused between B and C. Yeah. Now, if you look at C, what is C saying? This is a key characteristic of the rural labor force. So this is a key character. What is a key characteristic? Does the previous sentence talk about a characteristic of the labor force?
Mm,
Hmm? Doesn't, no?
B.
So we cannot use C. We'll eliminate C. Now, if you look at the passage, an incremental spending focus should shift to the construction sector, rural housing and infrastructure. Yeah. Even with a lower share in GDP, it employs more workers than manufacturing. So the number of workers is more. So here it's talking about the number of workers is high, and here it's talking about spending should shift to the construction sector, and this gives like uh, a reason why. Yeah. So what should be in the middle? There should be something like another reason or like why it should. Now you, if you give a statement, then you should support it with reasons. So here we need a reason to support the previous statement, right? Now, in addition, labor force used in construction is largely unskilled. Now, when you use in addition, if a point of a similar point has already been stated. So has a similar point been stated? No. So we eliminate A. Now C also eliminated. D, these measures will make good economic and political sense. Now economic and political sense, does it logically, uh, is it logically followed by the next sentence? Even a lower share in GDP? No. So D is eliminated. So logically A, C and D don't fit in. Now if you look at B, higher allocation, here we are talking about incremental spending, which means higher allocation, and steps to boost this sector are needed as it is likeliest to absorb labor after agriculture. So it after agriculture, this is the sector which employs most of the labor force. Yeah. So it would absorb more labor than manufacturing. We've already told in the next sentence, and here it is saying absorb likeliest to absorb labor after agriculture, because agricultural sector employs maximum labor force. And after agriculture, if we focus on the construction sector, it will employ more labor, and even with lower GDP, employs more workers than manufacturing. So more than manufacturing and second after agriculture. So it connects between the two sentences. Got it? Okay, let's look at another one. This is again a big passage. So you want to read it, do it, or you want to do it together? You want to give it a try first? Okay, give it a try.
B.
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 Okay. Shyam, what do you think?
B.
Yeah. Yes, B is the answer. So let's see, why did you get to B? Now, what is this passage talking about? It's talking about the concerns about the barrier reef because of global warming. Whether the barrier reef is going to be there or not. And here we are talking about a fact. Yeah. A fact lamented in songs, tales, and dances of indigenous people living along the coast, which speak of homelands being drowned by incoming floods. So whatever you choose should be related to this. Right? That's your clue. Now, 2 early reefs were destroyed by exposure as sea levels fell. That could be related, but not very well related. For a mere 10,000 years ago, now here we are talking about, but they do reflect a view of the reef's permanence that is at variance with the truth. Yeah. For a mere 10,000 years ago, the coral-covered seabed that now forms the Great Barrier Reef was dry land. Right? So 10,000 ago, it was dry land and then it got covered by sea. So speaks of homelands being drowned by incoming waters, it connects to that. Now, if you look at sea, the reality of the Great Barrier Reef's existence is that it is a movable feast. Does it make sense? No, it's not in the scope. Sorry. Now, it is called bleaching and involves in the tiny animals. So this is absolutely not in the scope. So C and D don't even connect to the idea. Now, if we talk about A, it's not very relevant. B is a better answer. Right? So we got to B. Yes, Shyam, was that your line of thought? Okay, great. Okay, let's look at another one. You people are getting better at it.
B.
Hmm?
D.
Okay. Shyam, what do you think?
D.
D. So why did you take D? What were your clues?
Ma'am, Ma'am, it is going with the theme of the passage
Hmm.
about the space and about the rockets, motors.
What about the rockets? Can you
Ma'am,
be specific?
ma'am, means what we say with the making of the rocket for to launch in the space
Hmm.
of the
So
things.
now, more specifically, if you look at the rocket's motors account for some of the rest, but the
Mass of the
bulk
rocket.
consists of something. Yeah. So what are we talking about? The weight. Basically, something has to come in related to the weight of the rocket, right? So typically the payload represents only about 5% of the mass, and then it talks about rocket's motors account for the rest. That connects? Yeah. So the whole thing is talking about like the what is required to get it up. So the drawbacks. So this is exactly what those behind what they call autophase rocket hope to achieve. This is absolutely irrelevant. At launch, engine will sit at the base of this cylinder. This cylinder, does it have reference? No. And but at that time the craft reaches this has nothing to do with the weight. The fuel and oxygen that react to produce the thrust required to reach orbit. Even that doesn't talk about the weight. So only D is your answer. Yes, Shyam? Now remember, you have to get clarity. Right?
Yes,
Why,
ma'am.
when you choose an answer, ask yourself, why did I choose this? Does it make sense? Or is there a better answer? Don't take a wild guess, but go with reasoning. If you go with reasoning, you will never go wrong. And if there at all you do have a problem, analyze further. So once you get to the habit of analyzing, you will always get your answers right. So let's try this one. It begins with a question and we are looking at the concluding statement. Yeah. So what was the strategy for a concluding statement? Avani? What is the strategy for concluding statement? What do we need?
Ending, conclusion.
Ending. So something that will connect to the introduction and more or less sum up the passage or sum up the points or give a conclusion or inference from the passage. That will be our conclusion, right? Okay. So you can read this.
Ma'am, C.
Hmm?
C.
C. Okay. Let's see whether C would be your answer. Shyam, what do you think?
Mm,
Hmm?
I couldn't find the answer.
So what do you think more or less what is the answer you are
Ma'am, I am
looking at
confused between C and D.
between B and D?
C and D, C and D.
Okay, C and D. Okay. They seem to be similar. Okay, so what is it talking about? There is some things that affect tourism, right? One is terrorism, another is political violence, and another is natural disasters. So that is the summary of the passage. So now we need a conclusion. Now here each one of them starts with however. So that means we are looking at a contrast. And so in spite of all this, what can happen? Yeah. So first is what might stop tourism's latest revolution? So your conclusion would be, even though all this is going on, tourism is still going on. Something of that sort. Yeah, because each one of them begin with however. So A says tourists are spending more. Doesn't make sense. However, it recovered quickly after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Now that is very specific. It doesn't give an overall idea of the entire passage. However, the industry has proved to be very resilient. So resilient is your keyword over here. In spite of everything, the industry is still going on because it is resilient. That is, it can grow even in difficulty, right? Okay, and D says, however, the industry seems impervious to all this. That means the industry is not affected by all these. So can we say, now which one would be better? Would it be better to say that the industry is not affected by any of these terrorisms, etc., etc.? Or is it better to say that in spite of all these, the industry has still is strong enough and so it can grow? What will be a better answer, Shyam?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there? So what will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
a better answer, C or D?
Ma'am, C.
C would be better, right? Instead of
Yes.
just saying that uh, industry is not affected, we would rather say that industry has been able to grow in spite of all this because it has overcome these challenges. So being resilient means overcoming challenges, right? Okay, let's do another one then. Just two more from this exercise. Okay, I think the sentence seems a little incomplete. Okay, I think as should not be there. That would make the sentence better.
I think C.
I think it's C. Okay. Shyam, what do you think?
Mm, I am confused between
Hmm. Between
B and C.
B and C.
Mm,
Okay. So A you have eliminated. Yeah. D also you have eliminated. Right? Okay, let's see. What is this passage talking about? That is, the survey is not too concerned about the surplus financial savings flowing out of the banks to the capital market. Yeah. So there is a surplus flow from the banks to capital market. A concern everywhere is now that the market appears to be overvalued and is due for correction. Right? Overvalued market is always due for correction. Now, what is the result? This could lead to a significant losses for households and that have moved to such avenues to higher returns related to the deposit rates, which are falling. So if there is a correction, the deposit rates are falling. So what do we need here? So this is interesting because at present our investments and saving rates are both declining. Is that relevant to the problem that is coming up? No. It just says it is interesting. We don't want to know whether the fact is interesting or not. We need to connect to the second part. Anecdotally, a high current account deficit can create a different set of problems when saving trails investment. Is this in the scope? Not in the scope, so eliminated. This has been taken to be a positive fallout of demonetization where funds have been directed to the market. Now here it's talking about savings flowing out from banks to the capital market. Yeah, here it is talking about funds have been directed to the market and it gives a reason why it is directed to the market. Yeah, and this has been taken as a positive fallout. Yes, this is a fallout because this is not something that is usual. Yeah, the reason could be demonetization. Now, when we come to D, it says now these returns are linked to interest rates prevailing in the banking system. Is that linking the 2 points here? Shyam, when you talk about D, does it link the 2 points?
No.
Not really, yeah.
Mm,
These returns, now are we talking about returns? So these returns is not relevant. So eliminated. So what are we left with? We are left with C. Right? So are you still thinking that B could be an answer? No. So you are clear about B not being the answer. Right? Okay. Now coming to the next one. Now this is a question directly from IPM Indore 2019 paper. So here what is missing? Your introductory sentence is missing. Yeah. Now this is a little complicated, maybe, but passage is simple. So first you have to figure out what is the main idea of the passage. And then I'll tell you according to IM Indore what the answer was.
A or C.
A or C, okay. Shyam, what do you think?
Hmm.
Hmm?
A.
A? Hmm? Are you sure about it? Okay. Can you explain why A?
Ma'am, because the climate change is it's about it is going with the theme of the
Hmm.
passage, because of the climate change and all the disaster is happening and everything. So they are explaining that climate change is not only causing of flooding, it also causes some another disasters and things.
Hmm. Okay. So A could be the answer. Let's see now, Avni, if you look at C, infrastructure can actually cause a lot of trouble during flooding. Now, if you take this as the introductory sentence and then read the next sentence, infrastructure in the form of paved surfaces disrupts water absorption and lowers water retention. This leads to disastrous level of flooding, which diminishes biodiversity, etc. etc. So, now if you use C as the introductory sentence, is it repeating the same thing? Yeah. Now, introductory sentence and concluding sentence should now usually we talk about introduction and conclusion to be a broader sentence. Yeah, where you're introducing a concept. So, does C introduce a concept and then the rest of the paragraph gives us details about the concept? Not really. If you look at C, the rest of it is talking about the same thing. Yeah. So on the face of it, it may seem that the paragraph is about infrastructure and how it leads to flooding. But if you look at the rest of it, say this part, this leads to disastrous levels of flooding, which diminishes biodiversity, impoverishes the people of the region. Right? Land should be used mindfully to prevent waterlogging during heavy rains. Now, this is something specific, but overall, now flooding can happen after heavy or low rainfall that we have eliminated. Yeah, cannot be an introductory sentence. Water retention is less important to prevent flooding. That is not even relevant. Now we are left with A and C. Now, if you look at C, if you take C as the introductory sentence, it is like you are repeating what you put in the introductory sentence in the rest of it, which I think we can avoid. So if we eliminate C, what is left is A. So A is a broad concept, like climate change is not the only cause for flooding. And then we go on to how infrastructure causes flooding, right? So instead of infrastructure can actually cause a lot of trouble during flooding. Now it is talking about what happens during flooding. That would not be an introductory sentence because it is just describing everything anyway. So anything that repeats will not be your answer, remember? So C is eliminated when we go to that rule. Okay. So this exercise is done. Now, what you will do is you will try the questions in the next exercise. That is session 14, para completion 2. Exercise 2, write it down. Practice exercise 2. I think it is page 179 according to my volume. Should be the same. So you will do the first 5 questions. And if you can, go on to do the rest of the 5. So don't go on to exercise 3. That is not to be done right now. Exercise 3 and 4 we'll do later when we are doing revision. So just practice exercise 2. If you
Can you just say the page number?
Page number 179, session 14, para completion 2, practice exercise 2. Questions number 1 to 5, and then you can go on to questions 6 to 10. Do it in 2 lots, so it won't, and if you think that, okay, you are enjoying doing it, you can do all the 10 questions at the same time. No problem, right? Okay, so now para completion is clear. You know how to handle it. I think Avni is doing a good job. So you know how to, first thing you do is understand the scope of the passage and the main idea of the passage. Then you figure out whether you are, what you are asked to do. If it is a introductory sentence, it should be, and most important, whether it is a connecting sentence, introductory or concluding, it should not repeat what is being said in the passage. Yeah. Best answer will be something that, if you're looking at introductory sentence, a broader introduction, concluding sentence, something that links to the rest of the passage. If it is a middle sentence, obviously you eliminate anything that is not relevant to what is linking the 2 ideas. So first figuring out the 2 ideas is important, and then what links the 2 ideas will be your answer. Okay, got this? So you want to move on to the next part, or I would say next topic. Okay. Are you tired? Or you want to continue? Do you want a break? Shyam is too eager for a break. Okay, I'll give you a 5 minutes break. Huh?
I want to go for washroom, that's why.
Okay, fine. So we'll take a 5 minutes break, and don't take too long. Otherwise, I'll be talking to myself. Okay? So about 5 minutes, and then we can begin with the next topic. Okay. So we can begin with the next one. So our next topic is parajumbles. Now, what do you mean by parajumbles? Any idea? So it's from the word jumble itself, you will be able to figure out. So it means when, say, a paragraph that you have, the ones you did in the para completion. So all sentences are given to you, but they're not in the proper order, right? And your task now is to get all those sentences into the proper order. That's what parajumbles is all about. So when we are talking about parajumbles, the types of parajumbles would be like the introductory sentence is given to you and the rest of them are jumbled up. Or the closing sentence is given to you, rest of it you have to put in order. Or maybe both the opening and closing sentences are given and the middle sentences are jumbled up, right? Or most of the questions that you will get, unfortunately, are where neither opening or closing sentences are given. Just 4 options or 5 options are given to you and you have to put them in proper order. Yeah. Now, mostly options will be given, but sometimes options are not given to you. And you have to just give your answer. That is, what is the proper order? That becomes a little difficult. Now, IPMAT Indore likes to give you those type of questions where jumbled up sentences are given to you, but options are not given. Right? So you will get about, now if we look at the para completion, about 5 questions of para completion will always be there. And about 5 questions of para jumbles will be there. And when it comes to sentence completion, it could be about 5 to 8 questions on sentence completion. Yeah. So para jumbles and para completions are both important. Now, now the question arises, how do you deal with these para jumbles? More or less the same way as you dealt with para completion. What did you do in para completion? First you read, you figured out the theme, what is the main idea, how are the sentences connected, what is the logical flow, right? Same thing you have to do here. So when you look at now here, say if you are looking for an opening sentence, all options for an opening sentence were given. Or if you're looking at the concluding sentence, all options for a concluding sentence were given. So your strategy of choosing the sentence for opening or conclusion remains the same, right? So here also, out of the given sentences, what would you choose as an opening sentence? What would you choose as a concluding sentence? And when you look at the sentences in the middle, then what would you do? Sentences that connect to each other, right? So this is more or less a wide strategy that you would be following. So read the parajumble. What is the central theme? Look at the flow. Understand the information flow and approach of the author. So when you talk about information flow and approach of the author, what are you doing? The logical flow or the chronological order, any of those can come in. And the purpose of the paragraph, that is important. What is it about? And when you come to the conclusion, the purpose of the paragraph is important. So, and another thing, whether it is explaining something or criticizing something, those are the clues we are looking at. And the other clues come from the tone and style. Whether it's a negative tone, positive tone, the theme. So it should follow. So suppose the topic is given as inflation in general. Yeah. So it begins with a general statement on inflation. Then it goes on to the government responsible for inflation and the various reasons maybe. So you have to see what is it the passage talking about? What can be the introductory sentence? What can be the concluding sentence? What comes in the middle? So the linking words or the say the transitions are very important. Suppose you have a sentence beginning with however. That will never be an introductory sentence. It could be a concluding sentence if it links to the previous sentence. So any sentence beginning with a transition should link to the previous sentence. Yeah, therefore, so something has been said before. So that way you can form mandatory pairs. So what we call mandatory pairs is like two sentences that always will go together. So when you have, if you are not sure about the conclusion or introduction, at least you can figure out which two sentences will go together. Then we can say, okay, what comes before this or what comes after this? Yeah. So that way you can figure out the rest of them. So the introduction, conclusion, and of course the options will always help you to solve. So maybe if the options are given to you, say you have 4 sentences A, B, C, D. Various combinations are given in your options. So now if you have figured out the mandatory pair, say C and D go together. Yeah. They may be in the beginning, they may be at the end or whatever, wherever they may be. Now, if you say C and D go together, so you can eliminate the options which don't have C and D together. Now, suppose you are sure that A is your introductory sentence. So immediately what you can do, eliminate all the options where A is not the introductory sentence. So you narrow down on the other options and you can come to the right answer depending upon what your mandatory pair is, or maybe you have figured out what the conclusion is. So let's look at these sentences. She sells cupcakes throughout the day and returns home at 6 in the evening. Now, this is very simple, just to give you an idea of how to go about it. Now, then it says she has dinner at 8 and goes to sleep at 11. Maria has a cupcake business. She makes cupcakes at home in the morning. So what is the theme? That Maria makes cupcakes and sells them, right? Next, what are we getting to? We see some timings given to us. So there could be a timeline to it or a chronological order based on the timings. Yeah. So now if we look at the introduction, what will the introduction be?
Maria has a cupcake business.
Maria has a cupcake business. Now what can come next?
She makes the cupcakes at home in the morning.
In the morning. And then comes she sells cupcakes throughout the day. And here it talks about she has dinner and goes to sleep. So going to sleep will come last. And in the middle, before that will be she sells cupcakes and goes home in the evening. So this is a simple chronological order. But yeah, always you won't find a simple chronological order because remember, the passages will be similar to the ones that you dealt with in the para completion. Yeah. So it will not always be a simple chronological order. It may be a logical order of ideas. Okay. So now if we look at, so the central theme we came to. Now if we are going to figure out an opening sentence, what are we looking at? What should an introductory sentence do? It should introduce a concept, or maybe the second sentence is talking about the person, then it should introduce a person, a premise, concept, or whatever the theme is, it should introduce the theme, right? So what would now of all the sentences jumbled up, what would you look for? Something that has a fresh beginning, right? So anything that is explaining or is referring to something that would have been said before will not be an introductory sentence. Now, the opening sentence should not be a sentence that is extending a previous idea. Got it? So now if you talk about introductory keywords, if a sentence begins with nowadays, It could be an introductory sentence unless something has been said in another sentence which talks about previously, right? A sentence beginning with a, and, or say beginning, or something which tells you that, okay, this is talking about introducing other things, introducing the central theme, or maybe it even talks about the central theme. That can go into your introductory sentence or opening sentence. Now, about the closing sentence, we had discussed the conclusion in para completion. So anything that either sums up the paragraph, or maybe beginning with therefore, thus, hence, or has these words, can be your concluding sentence. Yeah. So advices, recommendations. So maybe some particular problem is being talked about, recommendations or suggestions are given, that could be concluding sentence. Or summary of the entire thing could be a concluding sentence. So if you look at the keywords, thus, therefore, finally, eventually, or clearly, these can come in the conclusion, right? So our main thing is, when we are looking at a paragraph as a whole, and we are talking about, we said that you have to see what the purpose of the paragraph is. Yeah, so let's get into the details of the purpose. Now, if the purpose of the paragraph is explaining something, so how should it start? It should start with a general idea, and then it will go into the specifics of that idea to explain the concept, right? So it will begin with general, go into specific. So general to narrowing down to specific. That's how it will go. Now, if we have something about the purpose of the paragraph is to raise awareness about an issue. So how should the paragraph begin? It should first present the issue. It should talk about the issue or the problem. And then it goes on, then it should go on to why this issue is important and what should be done about it, right? Or what are the problems facing that the maybe society faces because of this. So anything that begins with raising the begins with the information will be your introduction, and then the details will follow, right? Okay. Now, similar to raising awareness, if you have something that raising anxiety or concern about an issue, that's the purpose of the paragraph. So what should it begin with? It should begin with the problem. Yeah. And then it will go into why there's a concern for it, or what is the concern for it, right? So the first introduction would be the problem, and then present the features of the issue, reasons for the concern, those will come after that. Got it? And then maybe it can conclude with a suggestion or recommendation. Now, if the purpose is presenting a solution, the entire paragraph is about presenting a solution. So what should it begin with? It should begin with the problem. What is the problem? So unless you know the problem, how are you going to give solutions? Right? So it will begin with a problem, go on to giving solutions, and maybe it can end with a particular solution which will be successful. Now, if your purpose of the paragraph is to surprise or amaze or cause wonder about something, then the surprise element must come first. right? And then it should go on to why it is surprising, the idea or the issue can be explained, right? So if you see the clue, you can get the clue of the arrangement of sentences from the purpose of the paragraph. So when you read the sentences, even though they are jumbled up, you can get an idea about what the paragraph should be talking about. So the purpose will give you the order of the sentences. This is clear? We can move on. Shyam? Shyam, are you there? I think he has a network issue. Yes, Shyam, do you have a
Yes,
network issue?
yes, ma'am. There are some network
I think
issue here.
you were frozen for some time. So have you understood this? So this is a major part of your strategy. First, understanding what the paragraph could be about. Yeah. And if you have understood what the paragraph could be about, then what will you do? Begin with something that introduces either the issue, either the topic or the problem, or maybe something that the paragraph could be talking about in the later or expanding on. Yeah. So anything that is general or broad statement will be your introduction. Then after you have decided on the introduction, what do you have to look at? How the sentences can be linked together. Linking the sentences is very important, otherwise there wouldn't be a flow. Logical flow has to be maintained. So maybe if it is talking about activities, so what came first, what happened later, or it is talking about an issue related to activities. So the problem related to activities comes up first. Or maybe a decision has been taken by the managing committee. And according to that, the students have to do something. Yeah. Maybe chronology can be based on time. Or it could be logical chronology, or it could be any other sequence. So you have to figure out what, so that will come from the purpose of the paragraph. So sequencing could be, you could get the key from the words that you come across, maybe dates, years, time, or before, later, after, when. So these would be before something happened. Now what happened before that or after that? Yeah. Later, the committee decided. So something must have happened before that. Yeah. So that's how you get to the order of sentences. So sequencing keywords will give you the key to the clue to the order of the sentences. So if you're talking about activities, so what was the initial activity? Then you go on to what happened after that, right? So like when you read a story, you don't begin from the middle. You want to know, if you begin from the middle, you won't get a clue of what happened before. So the sequencing of events is important. Now, anything which has specific detail, will that come in the beginning? No, it is always general to specific. So a general statement will come in the beginning, or it could be concluding statement. So if there are two general statements, then one of them will be a conclusion, one of them will be an introduction. And anything specific will be in the middle, right? So it moves from introductory sentence to specific details. Now, when we are talking about mandatory pairs, any two sentences that are linked together form a mandatory pair, and you can eliminate the other options given to you if they don't contain that mandatory pair. So maybe your mandatory pair is D and C in this order. Now if the option has C and D, so say an option has A, C, D, B. Now you know D and C should come together. So what do? Eliminate. Yeah. So mandatory pairs will give you the order of sentences or the combination of sentences that come together. And maybe if you have decided on D and C as a mandatory pair in this order, you can eliminate other options which don't have D and C coming together. So you can narrow down on your options. So maybe you have two options which have DC. And now what are you left with? Maybe DC is coming in the middle, or maybe in the beginning. Maybe D is an introductory sentence and C follows. Then you can decide what comes after C. Yeah. So this will help you to eliminate at least two options mostly. Okay, another set of sentences that can come together is question and answers. Maybe one of the sentences asking a question. So it will be followed by the answer. Ideas and examples. If an idea is given and there's another sentence which gives specific examples. So the two can come together, right? Ideas come first, examples come after that. And then of course, you look for keywords, indicators, which connect sentences or ideas. So if you have logical connectors or say a sentence beginning with however, what will come before that? An idea which is in contrast to it. Yeah. If your sentence begins with therefore, and then a point is given, what should come before? A statement which leads to this reasoning. Right? Cause-effect relationship. Okay. When we talk about transition words, comparisons, similarly, likewise. So if you have similarly or likewise, two similar ideas can be linked together. Now, contrast indicators, on the other hand, but, yet, however, nevertheless, although, besides, means the other idea that it is connecting to is not similar. Right? So it creates a contradiction. Additional information. Also, additionally, moreover, means the sentence before that is a similar idea, but we are adding something to it. We are not just comparing two similar ideas, but we are adding something. So it carries forward a line of thought, that is what it does, which is in the earlier, from the earlier statement, you can say. So firstly, secondly, thirdly, lastly, these are like pointers which show clearly state that they come after one another. Or if you have, say, due to, as, since, therefore, because, consequently, what does this mean? Something happened before that, and as a result, we are talking about this particular point. Yeah, so you have to figure out what happened before that. So what are we doing? We are linking the reason of thought. Okay. Now, another important thing that can give you clues is the articles. The, and usually can be used for, what can and be usually used for? Introduction? When we did sentence completion, para completion, we said and can be used as introduction. Sometimes the can also be used as introduction. And if it is, but it will be depend upon how it is used, right? Say, the can be like a definite article used before something or someone specific. So that specific something or someone may have been introduced in the previous sentence, or the sentence itself can be an introduction, right? Now, when you're talking about and, it can be something that is introduced for the first time. So that could be an introductory sentence. If you don't have any other general introductory sentence, that is. And so when you're talking about, specifically when you're talking about general facts. Okay. Now, pronouns. What was the rule for pronouns when we were doing the para completion? Avni?
Yes, ma'am.
What did we say? What did we say about pronouns when we were doing para completion?
It cannot be the introductory sentence.
Yeah, so the noun should be introduced in the previous sentence, right? So here also anything with pronouns, you can, it won't be an introductory sentence. And secondly, it can help you form a mandatory pair. Yeah, so something that introduces the noun will be before the sentence that has the pronoun. Got it? Shyam? Is it getting clear? Or are you confused? Lots of things to remember, but simple things when you get to do. So when you start doing the questions, it will become easier to understand this. So if a noun is being replaced by a pronoun in any two sentences, then they will come together. So there will be one after the other. Yeah. So if you see, now this is what we were talking about. The two sentences will have the same subject. So they will form a pair. Right? Okay, if they have adjectives like better, worse, taller, shorter. So means you are comparing. So maybe one sentence is talking about a point. So the first sentence is talking about a point, and the second sentence is using these words. So it is comparing to the previous sentence. So again, you are forming mandatory pairs. Yeah. Abbreviations, that is important. Now, if you have an abbreviation, usually the full form will come before that. So any full form will come first and followed by the abbreviation. So now we come to what can be eliminated. Options which can be eliminated. Obviously, you will be eliminating the ones which are in the wrong order and the ones which have incorrect mandatory pairs. Yeah. So anything where the opening sentence is not correct, or the closing sentence is not correct, or the mandatory pair that you have come across is not there, you can eliminate. So these are the time-saving techniques. Elimination means time-saving technique. You are not going to, if the options are given to you, you are not going to figure out, okay, what comes first. Even if one of the clues is there, you can eliminate some of the options. So you have the mandatory pair, maybe you can eliminate some of the options. Maybe only one of the options has the mandatory pair. Obviously, that is your answer, right? So of course, this is very important. Don't just choose an answer because you think it is correct. Even if you think the mandatory pair is there, your conclusion and introduction should be also correct. So if the conclusion and introduction are not correct, you are in trouble. So reread the sentence to ensure continuity. So reread all the sentences in order for the option you think is correct. Yeah. If you find anything amiss, then so anything that is not logically in order or even grammatically doesn't make sense. So maybe you thought that, okay, according to the idea or the activity, I can find the chronological order, but maybe the pronoun or the adjective is missing. So you look into it again. So before we move into the questions, so what are we going to do? Identify opening and closing sentences. Identify connected sentences or mandatory pairs. Find the transition words. Identify the pronouns and see where the noun lies. Identify adjectives and see what is being compared. Yeah. And of course, eliminate your options. So this is more or less the strategy that you would be following. Confused? Yes, Shyam? I think Shyam is frozen again. Shyam, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at this example. Now, this is an example where your first sentence is given to you and last sentence is given to you to make it easier. Yeah. So you may get this type of questions where the first and last sentences are given and you have the middle sentences which are jumbled up. So you have your instructions in the following question. First and last part of the sentence or passage are numbered 1 and 6. Yeah. So this should be 6. Yeah. The rest of the passage sentences is split into 4 parts, namely P, Q, R, and S. These 4 parts are not given in the proper order. Read the sentence and find out which of the 4 combinations is correct. So your options will be in the order of the sentence. So you have to put these P, Q, R, S in order, right? Now, if you look at this, let's solve this. Your opening sentence is given. Nalanda became India's famous center of education. So what is the key from here? Nalanda was a famous center or became India's famous center of education. Yeah. And your conclusion is he stayed there for several years. Now we have a pronoun he. What should come before that? Somebody who is referred to as he. Now, if you say 10 Buddhist monks will not be he. It is situated near the town of Bihar Sharif. No. The ruins of Nalanda can be seen. No. It was visited by Chinese pilgrim Huan Sang. So immediately we know these form a mandatory pair. Right? So S will come in last for you. Now we have to put the others in order. Now 10,000 Buddhist monks used to live there. It is situated near the town of Bihar Sharif. The ruins of Nalanda can still be seen. Now, if we see here, it should be preceded by something specific. Now, the ruins of Nalanda can still be seen. Nalanda became India's famous center for education. The ruins of Nalanda can be seen. After that, does it make sense? It was visited by the Chinese pilgrim Huan Sang. Now here we have it was visited. It should be referring to something that has been said before about Nalanda. Hmm? So it is situated near the town of Bihar Sharif. We also it begins with it. And we have ruins of Nalanda can still be seen. Now, ruins of Nalanda can still be seen will not be a concluding sentence. So, can it go after the first introductory sentence? Seems like, yeah. So, ruins of Nalanda can be a first sentence after the introduction. Then something with it can come in, which is referring to Nalanda. It is situated near the town of Bihar Sharif. So the ruins of Nalanda is situated near the town of Bihar Sharif. Can that follow? Yes, Shyam. So what can come after R? Can Q come after R?
Yes.
It logically follows, right?
Hmm.
So now you know that S
Yeah.
comes last. What comes in the middle then?
P.
P is the only one that is left. Yeah.
P.
Now, here we solve the whole thing. Yeah. But even if you see the options, S is what comes last for us. C is the only option where S comes last. So you can easily even eliminate all the others without going into the process of looking at what comes first and what comes after. Right? But still, yes, we solved it because we should know the reasoning behind putting the sentences together. Right? Now, suppose you had two options with S coming last, then obviously you would have to look at the others. Right? Okay, now let's look at another one. Now, in this question, no options are given to you. This becomes a little difficult because you have to figure out the order. Right? The sentences given below, when properly sequenced, form a coherent paragraph. Each sentence is labeled a number. Decide on the most logical order and enter the sequence of numbers in the space provided. So you will be given a space in which you have to write the order. So now what you have to do, you have to read each of them and figure out what comes first, what comes together, what form mandatory pairs, and what can come after that. Right? So now this is one of the IPMAT questions from Indore. I think it was in 2019 or 20, something of that sort. Okay, so let's read. Now this begins with in the past. In the past, companies with international aspirations simply familiarized themselves with any differences in the legal system or in the procedures used in the day-to-day business of import and export. Yeah. So something that happened in the past and what the companies simply familiarize themselves with these two things. Now, modern trade, however, demands more from companies. Now, this talks about, however, there has to be something before it. Right? Today, the company seeking international success must also understand the people who live and work in countries they deal with, how they think, behave, and do business. So this is about talking about what the companies require today. So can you see a sort of logical order coming in? Yeah. And then D says, to succeed in today's global market, it is essential to learn as much as possible about the conditions in overseas market. So to succeed in today's global place, it is essential to learn about conditions in the overseas markets. Now, compared to the others, this is a general statement. So, now remember the rule, you go from general to specific, right? So, we can begin with a general statement. So, this can go in first, right? Now, if this goes in first, what comes after that? It's talking about to succeed in today's marketplace, it is essential to learn as much as possible about conditions in overseas markets. So obviously, if we look at these sentences, there's a comparison. And modern trade, however, demands more from companies. So modern trade demands more from companies. That means previously it didn't demand much. So the previously will come in the past. So logically, this should be your sentence number 2. And so out of these, what is sentence number 3 then? However, this should be sentence number 3. And what is left goes last. Now, if we read it in this order to confirm whether it makes sense or not. So to succeed in today's global marketplace, it is essential to learn as much as possible about the conditions in overseas markets. In the past, companies with international aspirations simply familiarize themselves with any differences in the legal system or in the procedures used in the day-to-day business of import and export. So they were concerned with only import and export. Modern trade, however, demands more from companies. Today, the companies seeking international success must also understand the people who live and work in countries they deal with, how they think, behave, and do business. So now what is your answer then? Your options are marked A, B, C, D. So when you are writing your answer, what will you write? You will write D, then A, then will be B, and then will be C. So this is your answer. Got it? Shyam? Becoming clear? So we looked at the statements which were specific. We found one statement which was general. Then we figured out there was a statement which set up a contrast. Contrast between the past and the present. So the past comes first, present goes after that. And you are done. Not so difficult. It's a little time consuming, but still we can do it. Yeah? Okay, now let's look at this one. It mentions a video on TikTok that question and influences possible views on the Israel-Palestine crisis. Now here we have it. Something that should refer to it has to come before this sentence. Yeah. Okay, social media has given us expectations that every video, every tweet needs to be irreproachable and encompass the lived experiences of the audience. This seems to be a general statement, more or less. Can this be an introduction? So this could be either an introduction or a conclusion. So we read on. Should celebs always have a take, ask an article in a magazine? So ask an article in a magazine. And then, do you guys even care about the issue, or do you care about influencers caring about the issue? Now, this is a question. Now, would the question be the beginning of this passage? Or would a generalized statement be the beginning of the passage? Now, if we see it, refers to the article in the magazine. So A and C come together. So A and C will be together. And A is not an introductory sentence. C is not an introductory sentence either. Okay, so I've got it wrong. It should be C and then A. Yeah, that's the order. So now C and A go together. Now what comes before C? What will go before C? The generalized statement will go before, right? So we can say B can come first. Social media has given us exceptions, expectation that every video, every tweet needs to be irreproachable and encompass the lived experience of the audience. Then should celebs always have a take? Ask an article in a magazine. It mentions a video on TikTok that questioned and influencers' possible views on the Israel-Palestine crisis. And then this is the question. So if you see, D should follow A. And that's your order. So what are you doing? Linking points, linking ideas. So we first found a mandatory pair. Then we found that, okay, this is TikTok video questioned an influencer, and this is an in inverted commas. So this is probably the question. So it follows A, and the only one that you are left with is B, which will be introductory. Yes, Shyam? Easy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now this is about passage, no, sorry, exercise 2 in your books. Right? So I'm beginning with exercise 2 because exercise 2 has options. Exercise 1 doesn't have options given to you. So your thought process will become stronger when you do the options with the questions with options to begin with. And then you can go on to the ones without options. Okay. So let's look at the first question. So we have 4 sentences and you have options given to you. Right? So it begins with, so Iraq and Afghanistan are now sun-drenched lands enjoying liberty and freedom, overflowing with joy and prosperity. So that's a question. Yeah. And it begins with so. This cannot be an introduction. It will follow from something that has said before. Yeah. Yet, in a new campaign ad, Republican Party strategists shamelessly take credit for 2 more free nations and 2 less terrorist regimes using a footage of the Iraqi and Afghan Olympic teams. Now it begins with yet. So it is contrasting, setting up a contrast to a previous statement. This cannot be introduction, but it has to be linked to a previous statement, which is setting up the contrast. Okay, the bylaws of the International Olympic Committee and the US Olympic Committee strictly prohibit the use of the word Olympic and related symbols. So prohibit the use of word Olympic and related symbols for political ends. Yeah. And now if we look at this, it talks about some political parties doing something. Okay, the US Congress stipulates that the USOC. Now, this is an abbreviation. Yeah. So anything, any sentence that has the full form will come before this. Here is your full form. Yeah. The US Olympic Committee, that is the full form. Yeah. The US Congress stipulates that USOC shall be non-political. and may not promote the candidacy of any individual seeking public office. So now, what is the idea of the passage? Main idea? What's it talking about? So something that the Olympic Committee has announced about prohibiting the use of the word Olympic for political ends, which has been supported by the US Congress, right? And then yet the Olympic teams, Iraqi and Afghan Olympic teams footage has been used for political gains. Yeah. And then we have a statement that sums up more or less the situation. Yeah. So now can you get to the order? Okay. Now what should come before this yet?
D.
D can come before yet, right? So we have D followed by B, right? So now anything that comes before D, C
C.
comes before D. Yeah. So now we are left with A. Can A be an introductory sentence? So it will come after B. Yeah. So now if we see, we had D and B coming together. Now which options have D and B coming together? A has D and B coming together. And D also has D and B coming together. So we can eliminate C and B. So after eliminating C and B, the moment you get D and B together, you can eliminate the others, even before going into the rest of the strategy. So now C and now here we have C coming first, which we figured that okay, C has to come first. So and A is definitely not an introduction. So our answer is A. So even if we don't get to where A has to be placed, even if we say D and B coming together and C comes before D, we have our answer, right? Okay, so you can try this one. First, get to your answer and you can use shortcuts to figure out which are the mandatory pairs. Shyam, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
C, D, A, B.
C, D, A, B. Okay.
Yes.
Sure about that? So how did you get to that option? Avni?
Ma'am, A and B cannot be the introductory sentences. And D refers to this is a man, so
So this is a man, so this should be referring to something said before.
so we're
So
left
it
with
is
C.
now here it begins with it, but that is not a pronoun. Yeah. So C comes first and C and D come together then. Yeah, this is a man who has lost everything. And then it goes on to he. Now he will live on bread. He is a faceless man because he has lost everything. Now, obviously C and D coming together, we have A and B where C and D come together. So we have eliminated B and C. Now between A and D, in this B comes first, which definitely is not your answer. Yeah. So B follows from D. So A is your answer. Shyam, did you get the logic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's look at this one.
Ma'am, A, D, C, D.
A, D, C, B. Okay. Shyam, what's your answer?
Ma'am, ADCB, perfect.
A, D, C,
A
B.
is for the,
Hmm? So now we see the first vision. So what comes after this should be describing the first vision. And then we have the second is linear and utopian. What comes after this should be the second, describing the second vision. Yeah. So ADCB is your only answer. Okay, so now in exercise 2, there are a few more questions which you will be able to do over the week. If you are not able to do over the week, then we can do them in class. But the questions for paragraph completion you have to do. Yeah. And if you have time, you can try doing these questions. So we have done exercise 2 of session 15. We did the question number 3. So you can do about 5 more questions and then we will continue. Okay. So is it difficult now or manageable? It's manageable, only you need a little practice. And
yes, ma'am.
practice you need to get to your strategies and improve speed. So when you are practicing now, you have to be able to do the entire do one question in about maximum 1 minute or less than a minute. So the best is go with the mandatory pairs, eliminate, or if you have found the introduction, what comes after the introduction, eliminate other options. Ho gaya. So even if you don't read all the options, you can still get, if there's a confusion, of course you have to read all the options, right? So we can conclude today's session. So do you have any?
No, ma'am, no doubt.
No doubts? Okay, so we'll meet next Sunday, which will be our last session as of now, before we get to the, so I don't think you will be requiring the revision right away. You can begin in the next round again, where you can brush up on what we did earlier. Yeah. So Sunday, please don't be late. We will begin at 2 o'clock. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye. Thank you, Anushka ma'am.